Hey preschool kids, it's Jeremy from Kids City. What's the coolest, most impressive thing you've ever seen? I've seen a lot of really cool things in my life, but you know one thing I've never seen is a real life miracle. Do you know what a miracle is? A miracle is something that shouldn't be possible based on the laws of nature, but happens anyways. In today's passage, we get to see Jesus perform a miracle. In fact, one of his most famous miracles. It's found in the book of Matthew chapter 14. And in this passage, we see that Jesus sends away the crowd that he had just fed while the disciples boarded boats to start to cross the sea. Verses 23 through 25 say, "And after he dismissed the crowd, he went up on a mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But the boat by this time was a long way from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. And in the fourth watch of the night, he came to them, walking on the sea." So after Jesus sent the disciples away on the boat, he simply walked up to them in the middle of the sea. Can you imagine being on a tiny boat in the sea at night during a windstorm and seeing what looks like a man walking up to you? I'd be terrified. And so were the disciples. They thought they had seen a ghost. But we see what Jesus says in verse 27. "But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, 'Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid.'" So one really cool thing that most people don't realize when reading this passage is that when Jesus says, "It is I," he's actually declaring himself to be God. And verses 28 through 33 say, "And Peter answered him, 'Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water.' He said, 'Come.' So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, 'Lord, save me.' Jesus immediately reached out his hand and took hold of him, saying to him, 'Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt?' And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, 'Truly, you are the Son of God.'" So in this short passage, Peter goes from being terrified of Jesus, believing him to be a ghost, to trusting him enough to stand on the water with him, to getting distracted by the fear of the storm and losing faith, to worshiping him as the Son of God. Now, that's quite an up and down roller coaster for Peter's faith. And one of the hardest things about following Christ is trusting him in all times. It's easy to have faith when things are going well, but it's much harder to trust in God when they aren't. So this wouldn't be the last time that we see Peter going back and forth between trusting God and losing faith. In Matthew 26, we see Jesus tell his disciples that they will all fall away from him that very night. Peter swears that he will remain loyal to Jesus, but Jesus responds, "Truly I tell you, this very night, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. And of course, Jesus' prediction comes true. Peter again loses faith and fails to uphold his promise. Jesus dies on the cross with all of his followers having deserted him. But this, of course, isn't the end of the story. 3 days later, Jesus rises from the tomb he was buried in, proving that even death could not hold back the power of God. And when he returns to his disciples, Jesus shows grace to Peter. Even though Peter isn't perfect, he still remains a follower of Christ. And if we choose to follow Christ, we too can be forgiven of our sins and allowed to be a part of God's eternal kingdom. Today's big picture question is, do Christians always have perfect faith? And the answer is no, but Jesus extends his perfect grace. Make sure you check out our Kids City Praise videos this week, as well as a breakdown of today's lesson and the family worship guide down below. Hope everyone is staying safe, and we'll see you next time.